Welcome to the Black Hand Communique. I'm Ryan O'Dowd. Bam. Today I get to talk about something fun to talk about, at least for me. It's about exposing bullshit artists for what they are. Now, those of you who are familiar with my program, and me in general, will know I am no fan of the two-party system. And I have my reasons for that. And so today I've decided to embark upon an educational moment, an educational series, an educational journal entry in which I show you and give you the resources to look up yourselves just how corrupt our government is. In one regard, I can't focus on that whole subject in one day. That's why I got a show. I got to take a long time with it. But today, I get to talk about my favorite thing to talk about, just banks. Now, banks are sinister organizations invented in ancient Babylon. I've already gone through that. That take more from you than you give to them, which forces you to expand their market share while shrinking your own and taking thereby from whoever you're taking your market share from. Now, without getting into the heady philosophy of it all, I'd like to just get into some specific actions that specific American banks made in the run-up to the major financial crisis that came in 2008 and 2009 that we now call the Great Recession. You might know it as the time that you didn't have work for a long time. You might know it as the time you got foreclosed upon. But if you were a special banker belonging to a certain cadre of banks, you would know it as the time that you didn't suffer an iota of punishment for what you caused on other people. Now, before I get into all that fun punishment talk, let me get to the core thesis of what I'm discussing today. I'm talking about two banks, Goldman Sachs and Jpmorgan Chase. And I'm using them as a case study to illustrate why the two-party political system in America is corrupted and can no longer be salvaged in the form that it currently is. And believe it or not, even though that's a grandiose, what am I looking at here? Vision that I'm trying to parlay before you right now. It can be condensed and focused, and as a metaphor, these two banks and the way that they donate politically and the benefits that they reward from it, that they reap from it, can be shown to be a case study. So here we go. As we all know, or as I assume you know, in 2009, our country got fucked. Utterly, really raped is the word for it because it wasn't consensual. And it had a lot to do with what was called mortgage swapping, toxic assets, derivatives, and a lot of other esoteric language that is used as a sort of sleight of hand to stop people from caring enough to find out how they're being fucked. But I can do this, even though I'm not going to explain that right now. I can do this. Goldman Sachs donated a lot of money to both Barack Obama and John McCain, as did Jpmorgan Chase. And if you go to the website, let me see, www.opensecrets.com, www.opensecrets.org, the Center for Responsive Politics, you'll see a record of that, a written record of the exact amount that Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan both donated to both major party political candidates in 2008 election. Now, the 2008 election happened right before the crash of 2009. Okay? So they were within the top 5 donors of both John McCain and Barack Obama was Jpmorgan Chase and Goldman Sachs, and both of those banks got bailed out. Now, I'll connect you to it's dealbook.newyorktimes.com. It's a long thing, But it describes how Jpmorgan got $12 billion in bailout money when their bank failed, and Goldman Sachs got at least $2.9 billion off of AIG on top of whatever it is that they got themselves, which they're not very open to reveal. So you have two different major banks that claim to believe in capitalism, but when they crash due to their own bad business, just accept government money and then go back about their day and then start blaming the poor again for the problems that they created. They foreclosed on people. They foreclosed on people. They lost people's life savings. They lost people's jobs. All right? They shirked their responsibilities out of sheer greed, and then to get out of it, they bought politicians, both John McCain and Barack Obama, and then within a year they had their whole investment, their $1 billion, couple million together that you do to both guys, and you get a $12 billion fucking bailout if you're Jpmorgan, or a $2.9 billion bailout, and you save your company while the other companies around you suffer and crash because they didn't buy the politicians. Okay? Now, before you say this is just a Republican thing or just a Democrat thing, I direct you to Open Secrets, Goldman Sachs site, where you'll find that, say, more recently in 2013 to 2014, they have donated to a number of campaigns all across the country. Of course, they want to dominate the markets everywhere. And it's about a 60-40 split, as you'd expect. It's a 60 Republican, about 40 Democrat. But nonetheless, they buy both parties. They buy both parties wherever they can buy them, and they buy enough of them so it doesn't matter. There's no competition, and they're controlling the market space. And on top of that, Goldman Sachs, out of their 36 lobbyists they have on Washington permanently staffed to make sure that they can buy politicians, 32 of those have worked for the government directly in 2013. So in their 2014 lobbyists, 36 of them, 32 of them worked for the government the year before that. That's a bank. And it's in both parties, and it's an epidemic. It's a disease that has corroded through the American system that cannot be fixed through voting for Republicans or voting for Democrats. It can't be done. And it's not just one company. We'll now go from Goldman Sachs to Jpmorgan Chase. Now, Jpmorgan got an even bigger bailout. They got the $12 billion bailout. Okay? Now I'm going to their opensecrets.org election cycle summary. They also contributed to a lot of people, and their top 5 are split 3-2, 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and their overall is split is more like a 55-45. And so yes, of course they favor Republicans because they want to be as conservative as possible, but ultimately it doesn't matter because they buy all the Democrats too. They buy the Democrats and the Republicans, so it doesn't matter. And Jpmorgan Chase, who bought an even greater amount of Democrats, got an even greater bailout under Barack Obama. And out of the 66 lobbyists they have, last year, 56 of them were working for the government. So the bank itself runs the fucking government. They're working for the government. They buy the government. They buy the politicians. They get a bailout on a $1 or $2 million campaign contribution. They get $12 billion to not crash their fucking company into the ground when they fucking did bad business and they claim to be capitalists. They're not capitalists even. I'm a big fan of big capitalists, but they're not even that. They're centralists. They want power, and they have it because they have strangleholded. They've got an iron fist around both major political parties, and no one can get out of it or around it. The system is so incredibly corrupt, and I'll go into more in the future. It's so utterly corrupted from the inside out that any Democrat or Republican you vote for, you are voting for the banks to run our economy and our life. Period. You have got to get out of the paradigm that two-party system is going to ever help you, or that somehow one's better than the other. They're not. Jpmorgan Chase bought Barack Obama and bought John McCain and fucking bought Barack Obama and bought Mitt Romney. Okay? Okay? And who do you think loans out the money for creditors of news corporations like MSNBC and Fox News to be able to reinvest back into their company? It's banks, right? Banks like Jpmorgan Chase, banks like Goldman Sachs. Do you understand that when the same set of investors owns a controlling share of most of the Fortune 500, that you're not going to, and when that same set of investors, lobbyists, literally last year were the government, you're not going to be able to use the two-party system to get that away. You gotta fucking need a revolution. You need something real and substantial to overturn this horrible and corrupt system. And it's not a conspiracy theory. I will share with you it's a nonprofit organization called Open Secrets to let people like you be informed. I will share all of the links that I referenced today on my episode. We have got to get a Georgia's LVT and fucking citizens dividend in the cities, and we have to get land and freedom and guaranteed access and possession of resources vital to our lives in the countryside, so that people can actually have the freedom to decide for themselves what they want to do with their lives, independent of these corporatist, centralist, statist, capitalist oppressors that are controlling and dominating our lives. And it's that simple. I am Ryan O'Dowd, and this is the Black Hand Communique, and fuck the goddamn machine.